October 24, 1944. The largest naval battle in history rages off the Philippines. Suddenly, alarms blare across the decks of USS Princeton, a light carrier built for speed and firepower. A single Japanese bomb pierces her steel, transforming her from proud escort to burning inferno. Within minutes, 108 men have vanished, and an entire ship's fate hangs by a thread, while the struggle for the Pacific teeters in the balance. This isn't the story of a triumphant return. This is the story of USS Princeton CVL-23, the World War II carrier that never came home. How could the most ambitious fleet in history lose one of its own so fast? And what did it cost the men who fought to save her? Across the Philippine Sea, warships stretched from horizon to horizon, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and a powerful new breed, the aircraft carrier. October 1944 brought the Battle of Leyte Gulf, a clash so vast that nearly 300 ships and hundreds of planes fought for control of the Pacific's most critical sea lanes. At stake was more than territory. The U.S. aimed to cut off Japan from its oil supplies, strangle its empire, and open the door for MacArthur's return to the Philippines. Japanese admirals threw everything they had into the fight, hoping to halt the Allied advance in one desperate gamble. In this chaos, air power wasn't just an advantage, it was survival. Carrier-based planes hunted enemy ships, shielded troop landings, and turned the tide of battle from the sky. But every carrier was a target. Each one, from the towering Essex-class giants to the nimble light carriers, carried the hopes of the invasion on its decks. The USS Princeton, smaller than her fleet carrier sisters, but just as vital, sailed at the heart of this armada. Her mission, to provide fighter cover and strike support as American forces stormed ashore. In the largest naval battle ever fought, the fate of ships like Princeton would shape the future of the Pacific and the outcome of the entire war. USS Princeton joined the fleet as a light carrier on February 25, 1943, smaller than the Essex-class giants, but built for speed and surprise. Her hull started life as a Cleveland-class cruiser, but the Navy's urgent need for more flight decks transformed her into an agile strike ship. Princeton carried a punch. 45 aircraft, mostly Grumman Hellcat fighters and Avenger torpedo bombers, packed into a frame barely 2/3 the size of her bigger sisters. Pilots called her the carrier that punched above her weight. That reputation grew with every campaign. At Kwajalein and Eniwetok, Princeton's planes hammered Japanese airfields and shipping, clearing the way for amphibious assaults. Over Truk, her air group hunted enemy bombers and scored critical hits on supply convoys. During the Marianas Campaign, Princeton's fighters tangled with Japanese Zeros above Saipan and Guam, adding to the tally of enemy planes splashed. In the Battle of the Philippine Sea, what Navy airmen dubbed the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, her pilots claimed 30 confirmed kills in a single week. Each victory added to a sense of pride among crew and aviators. For the men aboard, Princeton was more than a ship. She was proof that skill and teamwork could make even a small carrier matter on the world's biggest stage. At 9:38 a.m., routine flight operations gave way to disaster. A single Japanese D-4Y, known as Judy, dive bomber, flying low beneath the clouds, broke through the American screen. It released one 250-kilogram bomb, about 550 pounds, aimed squarely at Princeton's flight deck, just aft of the midship elevator. The bomb punched through the wooden planking and thin steel below, carving a straight path into the hangar deck. There, it struck a fully fueled TBM Avenger, loaded for its next mission. The explosion ignited aviation gasoline and set off a chain reaction among armed aircraft packed in the confined hangar. Fire and smoke burst upward through the elevator shaft. Crewmen on the flight deck were thrown from their feet. Below, men in the galley and ready rooms found themselves engulfed in choking fumes. Water mains shattered instantly, leaving hoses limp and useless as the flames raced along the fuel-soaked deck. Within minutes, black smoke towered above the ship, visible for miles across the fleet. No one saw the attacking bomber again. It vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving chaos in its wake. The Princeton, so recently alive with the rhythm of launches and recoveries, was now fighting for survival with only seconds to spare. In a war defined by industrial might, one bomb had found the carrier's weakest point. For the crew, the line between routine and catastrophe had vanished in an instant. Flames raced unchecked through the heart of the Princeton. Gasoline from ruptured fuel lines sprayed across the hangar deck, feeding the fire as it twisted around armed torpedo bombers and stacks of ordnance. Within minutes, the carrier's power faded, propulsion and steering lost, leaving her dead in the water. Yet the crew fought back. Damage control teams, faces blackened by smoke, dragged hoses across blistering steel, desperate to contain the blaze. Water mains shattered in the initial blast, forcing men to pass buckets hand to hand, dousing anything that might slow the advancing inferno. Each explosion sent shockwaves through the decks, scattering debris and shrapnel. Still, men returned to the fire, again and again. Lieutenant Commander John Hoskins, grievously wounded, refused to leave his post. Even after losing a leg, he directed others toward safety, helping to organize the evacuation of the wounded. Around him, sailors braved suffocating heat to rescue trapped shipmates, some crawling through smoke-filled passageways, others carrying stretchers up ladders slick with oil and blood. Above, the flight deck buckled and split, venting pillars of black smoke that could be seen for miles. Below, compartments filled with toxic fumes and the roar of secondary blasts. No one expected relief. Every man understood that the line between heroism and survival was vanishing by the minute. As the fire closed in, the Princeton's defenders held their ground, buying precious time for the living to escape, even as the ship's fate slipped beyond their grasp. At 3:24 p.m., the inferno aboard Princeton reached its breaking point. USS Birmingham, commanded by Captain Thomas Inglis, had come alongside, her crew battling flames and hauling wounded men to safety. For hours, sailors from both ships braved the choking smoke and raining debris, refusing to leave their posts even as ammunition detonated all around them. Then, without warning, a colossal explosion tore through Princeton's aft magazine. The blast hurled steel and fire across Birmingham's decks, instantly killing 233 of her crew and wounding hundreds more. Survivors described bodies and wreckage scattered in an instant, the air thick with shrapnel and burning fragments. In that moment, hope turned to tragedy, not just for Princeton, but for the men who tried to save her. Birmingham's sacrifice stands as one of the deadliest acts of compassion in the Pacific War, a grim reminder that courage at sea sometimes demands the highest price. Captain William H. Baracker stood on the bridge, surrounded by smoke and the shudder of distant explosions. By late afternoon, the order was clear: abandon ship. There would be no miracle, no last-minute rescue. Survivors scrambled across twisted decks, lowering wounded into waiting boats or plunging into oil-streaked water. The sea swallowed the cries of men counting shipmates, each name a reminder of the 108 who would never answer back. As the sun dropped toward the horizon, scuttling charges failed to finish the job. USS Reno fired torpedoes. One circled back, forcing a hasty retreat. Then, at 1750, a final thunderous explosion ripped through Princeton's hull. The carrier slipped beneath the Sibuyan Sea, leaving only debris and silence. For those who watched her vanish, the loss was absolute. A ship and her dead, gone in a single breath, with only memory to mark the hour. On October 24, 1944, the USS Princeton was lost in the Battle of Leyte Gulf. taking 108 of her crew and 233 rescuers from USS Birmingham with her. Official Navy records confirm a single 500-pound bomb triggered the fires and explosions that overwhelmed the ship. Survivor testimony and war diaries document the relentless efforts to save Princeton and the devastating cost to those who tried. Yet certain details remain unresolved. The exact sequence of onboard detonations and the precise location of the wreck are still unconfirmed, despite post-war searches and declassified reports. What is clear is Princeton's contribution. Her aircraft helped secure air superiority at a critical moment in the Pacific War. Today, the ship's final resting place is unknown, serving as a silent memorial. The fate of Princeton is a reminder that even in decisive victories, the cost of war can be measured in both loss and courage, etched in records and carried by those who remember.